Hello and welcome back, my incredible AP Insight family. Abby Phillip here. Documents reveal something disturbing. The man now controlling Medicare and Medicaid has ties to Jeffrey Epstein. We're talking about Dr. Mehmet Oz, and what investigators found isn't sitting well with anyone paying attention. The individual currently running America's healthcare programs for the elderly and low-income citizens, Dr. Mehmet Oz, extended a party invitation to Jeffrey Epstein back in 2016. Records show this happened. The Valentine's Day celebration invite came directly from Oz and his spouse. So, the man Americans know for pushing questionable supplements and making dubious medical claims on television has another side to his story. Turns out his connections extend into far darker territory than snake oil and bogus diet remedies. Fresh document releases from the Epstein files exposed electronic correspondence between the Oz family and the convicted predator. An invitation went out, evidence exists. The communication happened through digital channels, though one has to wonder about the audacity required to maintain such associations. Perhaps holidays carry different weight in certain households. Some families treat commemorative days with indifference. Certain residences might view national observances as inconvenient formalities rather than meaningful occasions worth recognizing. The patterns speak for themselves. February 14th approaches again. Medical advice from someone in Oz's position might typically focus on wellness and longevity. Building meaningful human connections supposedly extends our years and improves our quality of life. That's the standard prescription anyway. The suggestion goes that love celebrations shouldn't limit themselves to romantic partnerships. Reaching out to relatives, companions, and especially elderly individuals in our social circles gives us excuses to reinforce bonds that matter. All varieties of caring relationships deserve nurturing and attention. Interesting advice coming from someone who apparently thought reconnecting with a registered sex criminal constituted appropriate social behavior. Because here's the timeline that matters. Oz sent that party invitation a full 8 years after Epstein's name appeared on the sex offender registry. Public record, no secret, no mystery. Anyone disappointed about not receiving an invitation to Dr. Oz's gatherings can now feel even worse. They lost out to a convicted rapist. That's who made the guest list, while others got passed over. Now let's establish something clearly. This invitation alone doesn't make Dr. Oz criminally liable for Epstein's actions. The evidence doesn't stretch that far. What it does establish is another wealthy individual, perfectly comfortable ignoring monstrous crimes when it suited his social calendar. Does this behavior qualify as morally reprehensible? Absolutely. Does the broader pattern make it worse? Consider what comes next. Victims came forward. Women who survived Epstein's abuse shared their experiences. One account describes entering a dimly lit space containing massage equipment. Epstein appeared wearing only a towel. He removed it. Fear took hold. The assault followed a calculated pattern, commands to touch him, escalating to sexual violence. Look at the reaction captured on camera. The facial expression shows surprise, even disbelief, but that shock doesn't stem from horror at the trauma being described. It comes from something else entirely, the realization of profit potential in these stories. Dr. Oz brought survivors of sexual assault onto his television program. He positioned himself as someone who cared. But Epstein's criminal history was already public knowledge when Oz was sending party invitations. Then this same individual adopts a concerned performance while interviewing the victims of his former guest. One might question how such a person sleeps at night, though asking probably just triggers another sales pitch for an ineffective supplement. Keeping track of Trump administration officials connected to Epstein files? The count has risen too high, while the number of people actually fired for these connections remains at 0. Just yesterday, the president addressed new information about his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, visiting Epstein's private island. A reporter asked directly whether Trump knew about the visit and whether Lutnick retained his confidence. Trump's response? He claimed ignorance, said he hadn't been aware, admitted he hadn't even discussed it with Lutnick. No conversation occurred. Think about that. You'd imagine such a revelation might come up in casual workplace discussion. How was your weekend? Family doing well? Oh, and about that lunch you had with our mutual acquaintance who could reasonably be called the embodiment of evil. America stands alone in this regard. Nowhere else can powerful individuals maintain documented connections with sex offenders and keep their positions. The contrast with other nations proves revealing. After appearing in the Epstein files, a former Prime Minister of Norway now faces criminal charges. Over in Dubai, the chief executive of a major port operations company lost his job immediately. A Canadian university professor stepped back from his position due to his documented communication with Epstein. Perhaps they were collaborating on some twisted theory. One shudders to imagine the details, but don't assume American institutions remain completely untouched. Goldman Sachs, one of the planet's largest investment banks, felt some ripple effects. Their chief legal officer, Kathy Rumler, announced her resignation. Investigators found communications where Rumler sent Epstein birthday wishes when he turned 62 in 2015. The message expressed hope that he'd enjoy the day with his one true love, complete with a smiling emoji. Epstein's reply contained a crude reference to masturbation and self-gratification. At least we can confirm that beyond being an absolute monster, Epstein also failed at humor. Small comfort. The reality staring us in the face? Dr. Oz will experience the exact same outcome as every other Trump administration figure linked to Jeffrey Epstein, which means absolutely nothing happens. No accountability, no consequences, no repercussions. Why? Because the foundational principle driving Donald Trump's White House centers on protecting the wealthy and powerful. That's the operating system, that's the core programming. Since Trump rode that golden escalator downward, his entire message has revolved around one claim: he fights for ordinary Americans. Despite his massive business success, he positioned himself as fundamentally similar to working-class citizens. Just a regular guy, completely normal in every way, who through determination and a mere $413 million inheritance from his father, managed to achieve his dreams. The narrative insisted Trump had your interests at heart. Because he was one of you, he willingly set aside his financial ambitions to do what America desperately needed. What was that mission? Cleaning up Washington, eliminating corruption, draining the swamp. The rallying cry echoed across rallies and campaign stops. We'd tackle it together, make it fun, collective action for the common good. Exactly that. Drain the swamp. The days of Washington insiders and their privileged friends jetting around on private aircraft while stuffing their bank accounts with cash would end. Millions of Americans struggling to find employment, afford medical care, or put food on their tables would finally get relief. The upper class enriching themselves while middle and lower income families suffered, that era would conclude. America would win so much that citizens might actually tire of winning. Turns out Americans feel exhausted for completely different reasons. The Congressional Budget Office released analysis showing millions could lose SNAP food assistance benefits because of expanded work requirements in Trump administration spending legislation. Industries hit hardest by imposed tariffs now report job losses. The White House itself acknowledged that healthcare premiums will surge dramatically for over 20 million Americans. While Trump eliminated jobs, slashed food assistance programs, and stripped healthcare access from those who needed it most, he forced legislation through Congress, delivering tax cuts to billionaires. The financial favoritism toward America's wealthiest individuals would constitute enough of a betrayal on its own, but the contempt extends even further. Now it reaches victims of sexual abuse. Trump could have released the Epstein files immediately upon taking office. He could have directed Attorney General Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche to pursue Epstein's co-conspirators aggressively. At minimum, he could demonstrate solidarity with Epstein's victims by dismissing anyone who willingly socialized with that predator. He did none of these things because he protects his CMS administrator. He covers for his Commerce Secretary. He shields his Federal Reserve Chair nominee, his Navy Secretary appointee, his Deputy Secretary of Defense. He defends his largest campaign donors and even low-level campaign staff members who distribute racist content. Donald Trump has no interest in helping anyone beyond himself and his circle of wealthy associates. Every single one of them belongs to an exclusive club where money, privilege, and influence matter above all else. The welfare of regular people never enters their consideration. These are morally bankrupt individuals operating at the lowest level. They have zero justification for their disgraceful conduct. Not one acceptable excuse exists. Happy Valentine's Day to all of them. Wait, before you navigate away from this content, consider what you just watched. If this reporting resonated with you and you want to see more independent journalism, subscription support matters. The button appears on your screen, but there's a larger issue at play. We're operating in a political climate where this administration can pressure social media platforms to silence voices they dislike. Critical coverage can be suppressed. My ability to continue this work depends partly on tech billionaires who are already demonstrating their willingness to accommodate this White House. For that reason, newsletter subscriptions provide a direct communication channel that bypasses platform control. A link appears on screen. Please sign up. The basic subscription costs nothing, though paid options exist for those wanting to provide additional support for me and my team. Your engagement matters. Thanks for watching this investigation. Hello and welcome back, my incredible AP Insight family. Abby Phillip here. Documents reveal something disturbing. The man now controlling Medicare and Medicaid has ties to Jeffrey Epstein. We're talking about Dr. Mehmet Oz, and what investigators found isn't sitting well with anyone paying attention.